Greetings, guten Tag, Talofalava. This is Dr. Snow Brown, Natural Pastor of Crystal Kingdom Church TV via Facebook. That is currently operating on the private Muna mode, as you all know. And we're still awaiting, of course, I'm going to amend the original, logo to the, with the, I think the words from Dead Bull Village to replace the Aotearoa New Zealand. I hope you'll, I think today, being the 10th of November 2021, we've got some serious issues that I want to raise, especially with the Kiwis here in New Zealand, or Aotearoa New Zealand, or as I refer to now, New Zealand, and it should have always been just New Zealand. That's correct. Anyway, blessed good evening, a very good evening to my Snow King Club congregation, SEC1, SEC2, and my Knights and Chiefs of the 150 Days Walk program, as well as the 6-hour A rules that's going on at the moment. Congratulations, very good on you. If you're still persevering, you're still hanging in there, still doing it, you haven't quit, you haven't thrown the towel in, all right, that's excellent, good news. Right, let's get down to business. That's correct. As you all know, today I got the chance to post 2 videos of Apostle Brian Tamati. That's correct. The church leader, the Destiny Church here in New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand, who is very prominent and has celebrity status, and is also quite a bit of a rebel, or a radical, member of the clergy here in Kiwi land, but I mean, is to be expected. After all, he is part Māori, that's correct, respectfully, his Māori heritage, and also possibly Pākehā as well. But, he's had a big influence, he's had a massive, huge, gigantic, enormous influence, that's correct, in the lives of, most Kiwis, possibly many Christians, of course, up in Auckland, in the North Island, in the last 30 odd years, that's correct, and even non-Christians. But he seems to love getting himself in the situations where he's always going to be a stick in the mud, that's correct. I don't think I've ever heard of any member of the clergy that would put everything on the line, his reputation, his status as a shepherd, reputation for being a radical shepherd, not a bad shepherd, but a radical shepherd, that's correct. One that likes to exercise his civil and political rights, well, rightfully, respectfully. When you have got the privilege of being part Māori, part Pākehā, that's correct, treaty partnership, well, you can do no wrong, indeed. Being New Zealand born and the rest of it. But at the end of the day, that's correct. His celebrity status, his status as a prominent clergyman, even, a respectable member of his community, obviously in his church community. But it still did not, stop the arrest, stop the charges from being laid, or from being arrested as well. It did not save his ass, that's correct, excuse me, pardon the expression, it did not save his backside, nor his skins, nor his hands from being placed under arrest with handcuffs. He would have been given the full treatment of an offender, and I tell you right now, Apostle Brian Tamati, you would have felt what? Well, like you said it. You felt like a criminal. You felt like a criminal. Yes, you would. Well, who wouldn't? I've been there. Where you're treated like one. You even feel like one. But once they put those handcuffs on your hands and they read you your rights, that's correct. And you ride in that police car, take you down to the station to process and the rest of it. And then, of course, you're pending your charges now. You're waiting for the outcome for the sentence date. That's that. That's done and dusted. Let's hope, that your defense lawyer is going to be able to get you off the charges or get a more lenient, a lesser sentence. That's correct. Because it looks like you're in the deep end, and I'm actually glad I am not in your shoes, my friend. That's correct. And I'm so glad too that I stopped my protest. I stopped my protest. That's right, long time. I mean, it was only three charges of willful trespass charge onto the so-called grounds of the law faculty, Victoria University. But it almost killed me. It almost sent me to my grave, and it almost put me 6 feet under due to police brutality. And this was back in 2003. So you're lucky. You're lucky they didn't drug you, they didn't violate you, and they haven't even made the decision to lock you up overnight. Although ideally, if you breach your bail conditions, they should lock you up. Maybe if you do that the third time round, then you might just get lucky and they'll lock you up overnight. That's correct. And give you a yellow middle punch smackaroo then, or some sort of surprise. That's correct. That you wouldn't want to endure. You know what I'm talking about, Apostle? And we never want to say that, of course, that you could possibly a sheep in wolf's clothes. Oh dear, no. Oh no. That would be terrible. That's correct. Tamati, eh? First one. Well, I mean, look at it this way. What you did, well, you might have broken the law. That's correct. Under the Public Act, I mean, whoopee-doo. That's correct. It's not the Crimes Act. Well, thankfully, thank goodness it's not the Crimes Act, or the Crime and Torture Act, or the Harassment Act. You would have been a goner. Let's hope you're not going to end up in jail, Bird. For how long? 3 months? 3 years? 7 years? 14 years? Oh God, that's right. Who's going to take your place when you go behind those thick bars in jailbird? That's correct. Who is going to play? Be the shepherd. Be the good shepherd to lead your congregation. And they say they went marching in, and they went marching in. And that's what you get. And that's what he got. That's correct. They went marching in, 1,000 of them. Can you imagine that? That's right. I mean, hey, I've got every right to be outspoken. This is a free and democratic society. Yeah, let's lighten the load. Let's lighten the load, buddy. That's correct. You'll be talking to a shrink. Let's hope not. That's correct. Although, right now, you should be doing a lot of talking to your defense lawyer. That's correct. I can tell you right now, he's in a good position. You're in good hands, buddy. Your whole church, your whole whānau will be praying for you, of course, and your whole community. And, of course, today I saw the video. It was only about 3 minutes and something regarding your the Freedoms and Coalition gathering that took place yesterday. That's correct. And the Parliament grounds. So it looked pretty awesome. That's correct. I like the part where they said towards the end that there was a little munchkin about 5 years old. Kuwait, yeah, that was lost. But get this, she wore pink shoes. That's correct. Gee, when somebody says pink, I think of my logo. That's correct, my church logo. Mr. Kingdom Church TV. When I see someone wear pink, whether it be here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, or in New Zealand, or even on the TV, or in a movie, or anywhere on this planet, I think Crystal Kingdom Church TV. That's correct. I think Crystal Kingdom. And also it hits me. I think of Dr. Snow Brown. That's correct. And then the other thing is, it hits me. Aotearoa, New Zealand. That's correct. On my logo. That's correct. Except when my logo gets changed and amended, just like how they do with the statutes in the courts, they repeal, revoke, and amend them. That's correct. All the laws that the so-called Parliament ministers and that pass every year, below, their bills that people have to contest via submissions. That's correct. This should be awesome. That's correct. An opportunity, eh? This will be the first of all the clergymen. The very first clergyman to ever be convicted under the COVID-19 Public, Health Response Act 2020. This will be a record. This will be a Guinness. No, this will be a Guinness Book of Records. That's correct. Offence for a member of the clergy. Except there's a catch, my friend. That's correct. What is that catch? Well, I'm not sure if anyone, let alone any prime minister, presidents, or any leaders in all the other nations on this planet are going to be sympathetic and let you enter their nation, their country. Will they allow? Should we allow, Apostle Brian Tamati to enter our nation, whether it be Australia or another South Pacific nation, or mostly Australia? That's correct. Or another country where you've traveled abroad. That's correct. That's going to be a real tough one. Because, of all acts, you could have been convicted, Trespass Act, that's correct. That wouldn't be so bad. But COVID-19, if you say COVID-19, that's correct. COVID-19, eh? Man, I know, I'm shaking my head. I'm dumbfounded, but I'm speechless. But I am appalled and disappointed at your example, Apostle Brian Tamati. That's correct. It's just bloody typical. Bloody remarried. That's correct. They end up in jailbird. Handcuffs. What a stereotype. You're like a typical stereotype. But for a clergyman, man, you certainly take the... That's right. The cake. The puha. The power. Even the Maori, potato. You take the whole lot. The marae. Oh, the iwi, the hapu, the haka, even that one, you take that one as well. You can take this on the chin, after all. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I don't think you've ever been caught. That's correct. I think this time, you really got caught by the toe, didn't you? And you didn't think that, that karma would catch up, eh? Buddy? That's right. You never know. But all this, I listened to your video. And all I hear is excuses, and desperation. That's correct. Man, if you preach like that, you're sure to get off your charges. You know what I mean? Hey, I've got to what? You've made my day. Apostle Brian Tamati. That's correct. You sure have, my friend. That's correct. Who doesn't? You sure have made my day. Man, I've had, people have been enjoying their full privileges during this COVID-19 pandemic. Laughing at this, the so-called, what do you call it? The fool, this fool. That's correct. Laughing at me, throughout the whole pandemic. And saying things, about, like, can you just look at that crazy woman? That's great. Can you listen to what she's saying? Can we take her seriously? Like nobody cares? Like, I really don't give a fuck? That's great. But when I heard Apostle Brian Tamati, of all people, you sent me a video, eh? You sent me a video? That's correct. Man, of all people, I never thought. That's correct. Hey, it's great. It's great to, to think I'm significant, to think that I'm that, I'm worth something. That the great man himself would send a video. That's correct. In my direction, in my way, eh? That's right. And it's like saying, meeting Holly Holyfield or George Foreman. If anybody gets a video from, Apostle Brian Tamati, that's correct. Out of the blue, out of nowhere. The funniest thing? I hardly ever received any friend request from anybody in this country. And yet they took full advantage of the Aotearoa New Zealand, your logo. They sure did. Throughout the so-called COVID-19 pandemic, or throughout my ministry. They sure did take the mickey, all right? And I mean, they ran for it. They ran for it. Like, they just couldn't wait to grab the good luck and run. That's right. And run away with it. That's correct. With the spoon and the cow and the moon. Well, I mean, at least I've got to give it to you, Apostle Brian Tamati. You've made history. You certainly have made history. But I mean, good on you. You certainly are going out with a bang. You went out with a bang, all right. You're a legend. Who doesn't want to be a legend? Who doesn't? Yeah, the first knockout, first TKO, that's correct, ever for a clergyman. That'll be something. But I mean, it isn't something to be sad about, because it is so, to me, to be honest, it's so fundamental. It's so monumental to hear a member of the clergy getting convicted or charged under the COVID-19 Act of all acts. That's correct. Because, you know, it's just one of those things that's so rare. Hardly ever. You just would not hear that kind of thing overseas, say in America or Australia. It's just unheard of. But I mean, hey, Destiny Church, a while back, I remember in the media or the news, they were the first church to cover the inside of the church, mostly at the front where the holy altar was, on the floor, with $100,000. I know. That's just amazing. It's incredible. I mean, wish I could do that. Cover my so-called little flat here on the floor with $100,000. That's correct. It's pretty awesome. So I guess this preaching that I am preaching about right now is in tribute. This is a tribute to you, my friend, Apostle Brian Tamati. That's correct. Whom I've never, I've never met you in person, to be honest, and I've never shook your hand, and I don't need to. It's correct. And of course, you'll disagree with my conditions of my church TV, and that's understandable as a member of the clergy and as a member of, also part Māori. That's correct. Your Māori heritage and the treaty document and so forth. But I'm afraid that's the way I've been conditioned. This is the way I've been created by my Lord, through Queen Snow Brown, through Holy Mother. And I guess that's the way it is. My condition stands. That's correct. And of course, I'm not likely to stick around in this country as well. You'd all love me to be deported back to Samoa. I know that. You sure would. Except that ain't happening. That ain't happening at all. That's correct, because I'm a Maka. And I'm a Kiwi. And also, well, my intellectual property was born in this country, except when it changes, when it gets amended, that's right. I shall be saying goodbye, of course. You all know about the restraining order that I'm hoping to file. Either this month or, that's right, hopefully, before the end of this month, November. And then, of course, that's that. That's goodbye to you guys. Although I will always be based on Facebook, and you'll hear and see what I do on Facebook. That's correct. That's right. And there's no doubt that you'd have no bad feelings, of course, if I decided to exclude some people in this country. They've got to learn the hard way. Kingdoms aren't easy to earn. That's correct. And also, some things are best kept that way. Just like with your treaty. That's correct. Because, if your people were never going to revoke that document, that's right, and you were always going to keep to the conditions and uphold your privileges and your rights under such an act, well, then I will do the same. Then I will do the same to protect my private monarch especially my Snow King Club congregation. That's correct. And keep them happy and keep them safe. And also to keep me and my ainga or familia safe as well. That's correct. But I mean, well, at least you got to enjoy your full privileges as a Kiwi, as a New Zealand born Kiwi. That's correct. And, you know, you'll always prosper after all. You know, there's always, you'll always come out of prison. That's correct. You'll always be accepted and respected. That's correct. Regardless. Unlike some of us who are still, you know, scraping by in the barrel, below the barrel level, we're still trying to earn our so-called, I don't need to earn respect from anybody in Aotearoa, New Zealand, because I'd already earned that a long time ago. That's correct. Through the birth of my kingdom, and also the birth of my private monarch, private company, and my private intellectual property. So, but the jealousy thing, hey, no hard feelings. That I couldn't include you people in my kingdom and in my private monarch, that's correct. No hard feelings. But you see, my private monarch is open. That's correct. But of course, I decide who's going to be part of this beautiful special kingdom. That's correct. But of course, unfortunately for a lot of you, you know, when you entered my special kingdom, you showed no respect whatsoever for my private kingdom. That is correct. You did all sorts of things. That's correct. Now, I might be one individual out of, say, 4.8 million people in this country. That's correct. But that don't give any of you any rights to think that you can, discipline me, teach me a lesson. That's correct. And conspire as a whole group and as a whole nation to try and, you know, teach me a lesson. So eventually I'm going to throw in the towel or quit what I'm doing on Facebook. Hey, you know what? This is what God gave me. This is my vocation. And these are my gifts and treasures that God gave me. Thank God that I'm not a Maori, and I'm grateful, very grateful that I am not one. That's correct. Because I can see now what would happen. That's correct. If you were, my God, I'd have every Dick and Harry sticking their nose, foot, and backside in there. That's correct. Trying to tell me how to run my church DVI, run my intellectual property, and yet you don't even dare give me not $1. Where's the Aroha? I think the Aroha has run away with the cow and the spoon and has, I don't know, dive into the sea somewhere in the Moana. That's correct. For the kina instead of giving me a donation that I deserve, that you stole from me. That's correct. And denied from me that privilege. But hey, that's okay, because I don't blame you if you don't want to give me any. If you don't want to give me the support that you would give to every other Pākehā in this country. Except I'm more Pākehā than the majority of Pākehās in this country. That's correct. I don't care if you don't give me nothing, because, like I said, I don't need anything from you people. That's correct. All I need for you is to leave me alone and move on. So that I can leave peacefully, leave your country peacefully, and then, but don't try and keep me here as a prisoner. Don't try and stop me from leaving your country. That's correct. Because you don't own this property. And I will never be part of your so-called, treaty people. That's correct. Or the people of Crywater. You should have known that a long time. I know. And it's a hard thing to understand these people, that they really don't have any rights to apply their harmful protocols, but to dictate to somebody's private life, professional life, social life. Man, every other aspect of my life, man, has been dictated to and controlled by your people through the racist white man and the racist brown man, and even through the elite ministers of the government of New Zealand. I know. But for what? Because I couldn't what? I didn't respect the people of Aotearoa and their rights under the treaty document. Hey, to be honest, you guys, the moment you signed that treaty, that's correct, you handed full control over to the new foreign ruler, Her Majesty Queen Victoria. So you're right. So effectively, your country and everything else became incorporated and merged under the so-called, sovereignty of Queen Victoria. The rulership, that's right, governorship and that. And yet we've been manipulated, that's correct, and brainwashed into thinking that you guys, that's correct, still own the country and still run everything. But in actual fact, no, it's the racist white man that's giving you that kind of illusion or the false power. That's right, I call it illusion. Or that, and what I call it, actually, to be honest, I call it arbitrary dictatorship. That's the kind of authority, that's right, that you're trying to overpower this so-called new sovereign head here, or this full royal here. I don't think so. Like I said, you don't tell me what to do, and you don't tell me where to go. That's correct. Because if I decide to leave your country, it's because we never entered your country to become a slave, not to the people of Aotearoa and not even to the people of New Zealand. We never came here, like the African Americans. That's like the African Americans who were stolen by the white man from Africa and transported on the ships to America to become slaves for 400 years. So we never have that legacy. We never had that legacy. But we entered your country. That's correct. We came here. That's correct. Like any immigrants, not as refugee status. We came here as proper. That's right. That is correct. As nobles, but meek. We're humble. And we were not starving either. We were not, looking for. We came here for better opportunities, a better life. We had it. We had it all in Samoa before we came to New Zealand, before we arrived at the Auckland airport on the 17th of December, 1982. That's correct. We had it all in Samoa. That's correct. My father, my parents were managing a farm plantation in Savai. That's correct. There was over 300 employees. That's correct. That is absolute. And we had maids. So we were like living it up, like royalty. That's correct. Except I soon started to see the real fruits, and I mean, you'll know them by their fruits in this country. As I grew up, I got targeted at the age of 23, 24 at the university by this evil, this great organization, criminal organization, through my rallies criminal connections. And nothing has ever been the same, and nothing's ever been the same. Ever since Mr. Prick, 96, when I befriended him by mistake, 1996. But it was actually just a setup, that's correct. It was a setup. To what? To tie me to bondage? To tie me down to bondage. Like I said, our family, we didn't come here as slaves. We didn't come here through the status of refugees. But we brought blessings. We came here with a lot of blessings. And they were hidden. In our little suitcases when we came. That's correct. And we come from a long line of kings. That's correct. Long line of nobility that you have no idea of. And I don't need to tell you about it either. That's correct. Because I wouldn't have my guardian angel, Sama Lama. That's correct. If I didn't come from a long line of, kings, a long line of kings and queens and of nobility. That's correct. Well, I mean, my mom's side of the family, the Patu family, knows very well, that's correct, that some of their, royal family members are buried in Mulinu cemetery in Samoa. And you should see their graves. That's right. Their tombs are like, it's only made for royalty. That's correct. Their so-called tombs are like, they have a key to get in. That's correct. But they're like your proper tombs only made for royalty. That's correct. So that's why we come from a very long line of kings. That's correct. They're nobility. But you dare, oh my goodness, I know, underestimate and undermine it, this noble. Well, I mean, they don't understand what you mean by noble. Royal. Noble means royal. That's correct. Not a commoner. That's for sure. Oh, I certainly did enjoying the so-called the video that was shared or was sent in my direction by Apostle Brian Tamati. Well, I haven't heard anything, as far as I'm concerned, anything about from Tamati until now. That's correct. In fact, I hardly want to see anything on the news, let alone talk to anyone in this country, when you consider the atrocities that are not going to be buried yet, but will be buried via the restraining order. That's correct, people. As for the donation, well, it's okay. You can ignore me because I don't exist anyway in your world, and not even in your imagination. I don't exist. That's correct. Just think of me as somebody whom you know, it's like a figure of your imagination. That's correct. Just think of me that way. Like, there she goes, but I don't know her. She's a stranger. There's been a mark placed on her. That's correct. A black mark. And don't worry either, because the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand you guys have got a black mark. Did you know that? For what you do, for what you give out, that's correct. What you give out is what you get back. That's correct. You know, there's a saying, you don't ever do that to a clergyman. You don't ever do that to a noble. But if you ever conspire as a group to be that spiteful, go behind my back, that's correct, and deny me my full privileges as a noble in this country, and deny me also all the other privileges that a lot of the other commoner Pākehās are enjoying in this country, especially the ministers themselves, being elites, of course, then I'm afraid you guys are now marked for life. That's correct. Until the arrival of our Lord, the second coming. That's correct. And here I was thinking that I must be what? I must be the most evil person. That's correct. What crime did I committed? Nothing really. You didn't commit any crimes. I think the only crime that you did was the fact that you were too unique. I was too unique. I was too special. That's correct, for these people to be accepted. That's the only crime I did. That's correct. If you say that I committed a crime against your people because I excluded you and didn't, respect your treaty, I'm afraid the only crime I committed was becoming a New Zealand citizen, That's the only crime, the only mistake I made. That's correct. I suddenly realized was becoming a New Zealand citizen. Where I should have changed my passport a long time ago to a German one. That's correct. I should have. And I should have left your country a long time ago. But how could you? If they were controlling every aspect of your life and stalking the hell out of you like that, and monitoring and spying and screening and listening into every private conversation like you were placed under a microscope, like you're a piece of meat. That's right. Where everybody knew what you were doing and what you were saying, and yet you didn't know anything about what they were saying and doing in private. And that is absolutely rude and disgusting and unacceptable. That's correct. And I don't know what it is. Maybe they're crazy over you. Yeah, they definitely are. When you've got so many of these kind of people living here inside this building, knowing everything there is to know about me, that's good. What I say in private, and even what I do, it's just disgusting. Can you imagine that? How you're in your bedroom and it's like they know what you're doing in your bedroom, and they even know what you're up to. That's correct. It's just so disgusting. That's correct. What an invasion of my privacy. Hey, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, she never has any of these sort of nonsense to put up with. Oh, well, she and her partner can enjoy their privacy and security in their own homes without any sort of big elephant ears, listening in, knowing all there is to know, and stalking them too on their digital devices. That's correct. So we definitely, this so-called evil treaty partnership that's going on in New Zealand, to be honest, I've never really had much to do with you guys. That's probably why, well, you don't know me that well. That's correct. So, I mean, understandably, we're two totally different individuals. Yeah, we're enemies, of course. That's correct. Well, I'm the evil one. That's correct. You're the big enemy to them. That's correct. And so are they. That's right. Well, I guess, I may as well say I hate you guys with a passion. That's right. And that's why I'm changing the logo. I just want to get back at you all. I want to be that spiteful. That's correct. I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. When I change that logo, yeah, I'm going to say, serves them right. I'm actually glad I don't need to look and see those two words ever again on my logo, because they just didn't belong there. They just didn't belong there. That's correct. I made a terrible mistake. I thought I was being genuinely, being a Kiwi. I thought it was, oh, well, it looks perfect. It's wonderful. That's right. And I knew that my logo was special. The moment I created that logo and the moment I looked at that logo, when it was born in 2016, I knew. I knew it was going to be, life-changing, even life-saving. But Lord and behold, how wrong I was. That's correct. How so wrong I was in thinking that by putting Aotearoa New Zealand on my logo, that's correct, that I would be taken seriously. That there would be, kindness and generosity and possibly prosperity and wealth and all of and prestige and respect and recognition that would come my way. But Lord and behold, I was so wrong. That's correct. And I wish I never put Aotearoa New Zealand on my logo. I so wish I never did. But hey, it's too late to take it back. But at least this way, as long as they don't see it right now on my church TV, that's one less offense. That's one less offense. That's great. Or an affront or an insult to the people of, to the treaty people, or the people of Crywater, as I call them. That's correct. Yeah. That's one less headache I need to worry about. Well, arbitrary dictatorship, guys, that's what New Zealand is. When you've got the treaty document, you guys are in bondage. Do you know that? Well, you don't mind being in bondage, of course. And you don't mind, applying or accepting arbitrary dictatorship from all the so-called outlaws. No, they don't mind. That's correct. As long as it's not in their backyard. And as long as it's what? Well, as long as it's not in, doesn't get in the way of progress. I can't believe that the Prime Minister of New Zealand, but the government of New Zealand, would actually give an outlaw organization, a criminal organization, 2.5 million. I don't know, where is where is the logic in that? I know, violates all the laws of the natural laws of prosperity and wealth. But common sense, that's correct. I'm going to say this, and I'll be very frank. Ever since the Honourable Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern took up office as the new Prime Minister, evil people have been prospering, and I mean financially in dollar signs in this country. The Bible, it says the evil people do not prosper. That's right. Evil man does not prosper. But what I've been seeing is that the evil people in this country, they've been prospering ever since Jacinda Ardern has been the Prime Minister. That's correct. I mean, the people of Aotearoa, 750 million, 2.5 million to a criminal organization. That is the most notorious dangerous organization, the most evil. That's correct. I mean, I don't have to be jealous of that, but what I'm saying is, she ain't fit to be a prime minister at all. I'm sorry. That's correct. She ain't godly either. She might be compassionate, sympathetic, and show a lot of love to the people of Aotearoa, but at the end of the day, you guys should get off your backs and say, hey, enough of this. We don't need all this extra free money. That's correct. We need to just accept our entitlements and try to make something out of our entitlements rather than depending on this free money that's correct from the crown anymore. You're just stealing. You're just stealing. You are. And for that, you should be killed for it. It's correct. Man, you wouldn't want it if I call all the dead people, but especially your people, your rangatiras, that's right, to come out, to rise out of the grave. And deal to your people, like the Telesa, and you would not want me to call all the Telesa from Samoa to come and deal to your people, that's correct, and to every other ghost and to every other demon on this planet. You would not want me to do that now, would you? That's right, you need to be careful, that's correct. Just like in the Lord of the Rings. Remember now, I'm Chief Ichibam, that's correct. You keep ignoring me, and that's okay, but don't undermine this noble. Nobles can do things, especially ones that are Gaelic and German. That's correct. Oh, you will not want to see what's going to come your way. So enjoy your so-called, your free money, as long as you enjoy it, because you won't be going to any kingdoms. Very soon, that's right. Yeah, you certainly have been caught by the tolls, eh? No, I don't think they've ever been dealt to, and I don't think anybody's ever taught them a lesson either. To do things the right way. Just because you sign a treaty and just because that's great does not mean that you got a right to that free money. That's correct. You're triple dipping and you're double dipping. Somebody ought to cut your hands off and your feet off for stealing. That's correct. Somebody ought to take the money off you that you took from the crown, because that is blood money, people. That's correct. And I'd be very careful now how you spend it. That's right. Because if you use that money to control people like nobles like myself or any Christians, you're going to pay for it in the long run. That's correct. That's correct. Another rat bag's going to come and take that money off them. So if I were them, I would either hand the money back or use it wisely for the needs that it was given to them to. That's correct. When I think about the police commissioner, that's right, even the New Zealand police force being independent, I mean, the reason why they became independent so that they could do their job, without prejudice, without racism. That's correct. But it looks like they couldn't do their job because they were being dictated to by either outlaws or the government. That's correct. Or some other loser was dictating to them. So they couldn't do their job. That's correct. And now their wages have been frozen, or there's a wage freeze. Jesus Christ, I wonder why. And the irony is, my brother is actually a police officer. Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't tell me you did that to get back at my brother. Or to get back at this noble, because I have a relation and a few others who are actually members of the police force in New Zealand. Man, you guys are spiteful, all right. They are a generation of son of a bitches. They sure are. That's correct. When they are spiteful, man, you guys are mean-spirited. You got all the ingredients, all right. Sure, I've got a bad reputation, all right. Full of jealousy, you name it. It's a good thing I excluded you out of my kingdom. That's why you deserve what you got. That's right. Oh, and there's more. Don't just be careful. There's more coming. Is what I'm now giving you a final warning. That's correct. Oh, I wouldn't want to arrest every member of the government. But you see, the police commissioner isn't bold enough and doesn't have, the authority that I've got to be able to place every minister, the whole government, under arrest for committing treasons against my person, let alone my family, my royal family. That's correct. For using that organization, you dare dictate to me, hey? Oh, you're evil Knievel. That's correct. Oh, I ain't evil. Hey, I could say all the evil things I could possibly. That ain't evil. Not if it's coming from the Holy Ghost. Now, this Holy Ghost is the smartest. He's the best. He's the best. Except sometimes if I'm preaching to you, that's the guardian angel that's preaching to you. That's correct. So that's the difference between an apostle and a natural noble pastor. That is a full royal. So this is the guardian angel. This is the guardian angel preaching to you with the archangel word. That's correct. Through the Holy Spirit. So be careful now. Like I said, you'll have a lovely evening. And thank you for tuning in and listening to my preaching again. And as for the government, you better stop. You better behave yourselves, ministers there in Parliament. You better take good care of this noble. That's correct. And you better stop your dictating as well. And don't let this evil organization dictate to me once more. Especially inside this address. That's correct. If you guys don't want to end up in jailbird like the rest of them, because this guardian angel is very, very clever and smart. And he knows how to throw anybody in the jailbird, in the jailhouse. And the archangel Warren, he knows all there is to know about your little treaty and all your little secret crimes and secret what? That's right, and all your dirty secrets and dirty laundries. So don't you worry, Archangel Warren knows all about it. That's correct. So you be careful now, guys. I got your eyes. I got my eyes on you. And my Holy Ghost family, my 6 Holy Ghost children, they got their eyes on you guys as well. Do you think that we trust the government of New Zealand? If they give 2.5 million to a bunch of punks? Hey, that tells me that the government of New Zealand are nothing more than a bunch of punks. That's correct. And criminals. Yeah, welcome to the real world. It's pretty cruel when you've got an alliance already cooking and building up against this Dr. Snowbrown. That's right. Man, you guys, the jealousy. Hey, that ain't my problem. Ain't my sickness. Thank God. You talking about me being sick. How can I be sick? If that order was long gone, that's great. They have the nerve. They have the nerve. You know what a white man does? A racist white man does in a country like this country here, where you've got that treaty partnership going strongly? Do you know what a white man does? And not only in this country, in most Western countries on this planet. When they want to control a brown person or a half-caste person or a noble, especially from noble families, and have got nobility in their heritage and in the background, they set them up. That's correct. They orchestrate, something against them and get them declared, insane in the courts. That's correct. With some sort of bullshit crap, sickness, so that everybody can be conned and brainwashed into thinking that, the only reason why she's like that is because she's a sick woman. That's correct. Or that because, she's been diagnosed with such and such. And yes, the hilarious thing, and the irony is they all have a mental disorder. It's called jealousy, arrogance. That's correct. Racism and prejudice. And what else? Oh, and violence. You love violence. I know. Don't lie now. You all love to. You love a punch up. So do I. I want to box somebody. That's great. I sure do. Your so-called bad attitude and everything is rubbing up. It's time to rub up. That's why I need to leave your country soon. Because all this toxicity and whatnot. Anyway, you have a nice evening. Behave yourselves. As for the young ones, keep out of trouble. Keep out of trouble. And don't listen to your so-called, any adults. Don't listen to a dumb fuck. Don't listen to any adults who aren't setting a good examples for you. That's correct. If they're doing the wrong thing, if they tell you to do the right thing, you what? Let it come one ear out the other ear. That's correct. Why? Because it's stupid. That's correct. They don't know how to look after themselves, and yet they're telling you how to do things the right way, and yet they're doing totally the opposite. I mean, what hypocrites? That's correct. Indeed, amen. As for the New Zealand police force, you guys better change your attitude, because racism, prejudice is alive and well and breathing in your police force. But I mean, you guys, there's another group of police force around the world that would just outperform you guys. That's correct. Take the mickey, will take your good luck and run with it. That's correct. And kick your asses, and fly. Yeah, you'll be flying. You'll be flying out the door. That's correct. At the rate you guys are going, you ain't doing your job as you're supposed to be doing. Well, how can you call yourself police officers if every time I make a complaint, you completely ignore it? And only because, why? Well, I'm not quite sure why they ignore your complaints, and why don't they arrest people that I'm complaining about? Except I've got to go to the courts, that's right, and put it on an order. I'd hate to put the government of New Zealand as well on the restraining order, to put restraints on them for trying to dictate to my privilege, especially that damn lawyer, Mr. Willow. Hey, he might be part of the elite, but that don't give him any right to dictate to my privileges, let alone my private intellectual property. You guys don't own my intellectual property, do you know that? Hey, I might be broke ass, my pockets might not be deep, but my brain is deeper than your brain. That's correct. Don't forget. So, good night, everyone, especially my precious little munchkins. Special lots, sorry lots. You all pray for this natural pastor. You all pray for me. That's correct. If you can't remember to send me a donation, let alone send me a check, then you can pray for me, then you can pray. And if you don't want to pray for me, you can just ignore me. That's correct. I don't exist. It's only a figure of imagination. That's correct. Right. God bless you all. And may Queen Snowbrown send her angels to keep you all safe, especially during COVID-19. In the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.